Hello, everyone, and welcome to Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloye in Lagos. Let's begin by telling you some updates as relating to elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it has ended the first quarter of its continuous voter registration exercise across the country. The umpire says fresh registration hits over 3 million voters. After 12 weeks, they've completed the registration and now stands at fresh registrants now stands at 1,081,947 voter, and youths between the ages of 18 and 34 still constitute the majority, with 771,770 making the 71.33% of the total number of completed registration. The second quarter of the exercise, according to INEC, will begin on the 4th of October 2021 and will end on the 20th of December 2021. So if you're yet to get your own registration done, quickly get that done ahead of the next elections in your area. Before we get talking about some of your biggest stories that you need to know tonight, let's check out some of your other political stories on our political roundup.
The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has signed the bill prohibiting open grazing in Lagos into law. The governor assented to the bill at the Lagos House today. This is coming 11 days after the State House of Assembly passed the bill that prohibits open cattle grazing in the state. The governor also signed the bill for the establishment of Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency into law. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, today met with the Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, where he reaffirmed his commitment to ensure that Lagos and the entire country remain secure. The Chief of Army Staff assured the Governor of putting all hands on deck to achieve maximum security of lives and property and seeks collaboration between state government and other security agencies.
They were always committed and willing to do our very best to make sure that security is enhanced across the state and all for the army, I will say across the country.
Some stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress under the aegis of the Progressives Consolidation Group are canvassing support from stakeholders of Nasarawa State for the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari when his tenure ends in 2023. The group conveyed their message when they visited Governor Abdullahi Sule today at Government House in Lafia. The chairman of the group, Aliyu Rabiu Kurfi, in his remarks, said the vice president has the wherewithal to continue and consolidate the policies of President Muhammadu Buhari, a submission Governor Abdullahi Sule corroborates.
He is a totally party-man, loyal person to Mr. President. And I believe you are also selling him earlier than he's selling himself, which is the way it's supposed to be.
Meanwhile, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has replied those criticizing his administration's decision to challenge in court the assumed powers of the Federal Inland Revenue Service to collect value-added tax in his state. For the governor, comments by some governors and other politicians alluding that his decision is not in the interest of a united Nigeria is pedestrian, as no country can be united based on injustice.
The issue of fact did not start from Rivers State alone. It started in Lagos State when Lagos State challenged it in Supreme Court. Unfortunately, Supreme Court said, look, you wouldn't have sued the federal government. All you would have done was to sue the agency. So when I came up to sue the agency, that look, what they are doing is wrong. We are not entitled to collect this. It is we. And it then looks as if, oh, we are doing something that's to cause crisis in the country.
Let's get started, everyone. So Nigeria's #1 man is out of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari arrived in New York for the high-level meetings of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. President Buhari arrived at the JF Kennedy International Airport in New York at about 4 p.m. local time. The president is accompanied on that trip by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyema, the Governor of Ekiti State, Kaude Fayemi, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Nia Debayo. Let's get to talk about the benefits of this trip. But what are the issues that we'll be taking up tonight? President Buhari will be addressing the United General Assembly. What will he be saying to the Assembly? It will be presenting the Nigerian case, but what will that be? There will be some other sideline engagements. We'll get to know all of that tonight. But what is the bottom line of this conversation tonight? Nigerians want to know the benefits of the New York trip of President Muhammadu Buhari. Let's get talking, everyone, shall we? Mr. Femi Adesina, the President's advisor on media and publicity, he joins us from New York. Mr. Adesina, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We understand from the statement that was released by your office that the focus will be on the issue of building resilience and hope in a COVID-19 era, also rebuilding sustainable governance structure across the world. But let's get to know, when will President Buhari be addressing the UN General Assembly? Which of the days?
Thank you. Good evening. The general debate opens officially tomorrow, Tuesday, from 9 a.m. But President Buhari will address the Assembly on Friday, September 24, and he will be number 2 speaker on that day. So the President speaks on Friday.
So that's about give and take. That may be around 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. Local time in New York, isn't it?
Yes, about that time. Nigeria is 5 hours ahead. So I think the general debate will start about 9 a.m. daily. So if it opens at 9 a.m. on Friday, and our president is number 2 speaker, and each speaker has 15 minutes, so about 10:30. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully
11 he will also.
Nigerians will be hoping to hear what the president will be saying. That's perhaps going to be President Buhari's one of his public speaking in for a few weeks now. So we want to know, what would the president be telling the General Assembly? Do you have an idea of his speech just yet?
Yes, I have an idea, but then you know that I can't begin to reveal all that he will say, because you don't second guess a president. When a speech is not unveiled yet, you don't begin to talk about the key issues in that speech. But what I will say is that he will be talking about global issues. He will be talking about Nigerian issues and how they affect the globe and affect the country, and many other things. Definitely, he will talk about the Nigerian economy, which is rebounding after the effects of COVID. He will talk about security. Security is a global issue. He will talk about that. He will talk about the anti-corruption war. He will talk about assets recovery, which is dear to his heart and dear to Nigeria's heart. The Attorney General of the Federation is here. You know, he is the one who is like in the vanguard of the assets recovery issue. So the president is going to talk about many issues that are international in nature, and then some issues that are local, but which have international implications. They will all be in the speech.
So because in local parlance there, they say, what is the need for us as average Nigeria? So the president is on the global stage. But the average man on the street, and some of my viewers who love to listen to politics, who want to know how the president's speech or his engagement in New York will better the monies in their pocket or the quality of the meal on their table. Can you tell us what will gladden the hearts of Nigerians today from what the president has taken to New York, and perhaps what he will be bringing back as benefit to Nigerians?
Okay, thank you. This kind of outing is not buying and selling. It is not the one which at the end of the day you will say, oh, we took this commodity to the market and this is what we sold. This is the unsold. This is the gain we made. No, this is a multilateral outing in which the entire globe is here. It's a global center stage, and it's an opportunity for different countries of the world to let their voices be heard on international issues, and then also an opportunity to bring what are local issues, but with international implication. You bring them to the table and let the rest of the world hear what is happening in your country. For instance, a good number of countries have not recovered from COVID-19 recession. Nigeria has recovered. The economy recorded a GDP growth of 5.01% recently. How was it done? The president will speak about it. The world can learn from it. He will talk about security. He will talk about what Nigeria is doing about the girl child. He will talk about so many things, SDGs, strides we have taken in SDGs and all that. So it's a global center stage, and any country that is not there has missed a lot. So it's not a question of we have taken this commodity to the market, we have sold this, and this is the gain we made. That is not what this kind of outing is for. But on the other side, there are also going to be bilateral meetings. I can confirm to you that the presidents of Burundi, Portugal, the Queen of Netherlands, the president of Vietnam, president of Sri Lanka, permanent representative of the USA to the United Nations, they have all confirmed bilateral meetings with our president, which will hold between tomorrow and Friday. They will discuss initiatives of interest between their countries and Nigeria. So if you want to talk of what is the need for Nigeria, it is at that bilateral level that will come.
Yeah, so when I asked that question, this is not the fourth time any Nigerian president will be attending the United Nations General Assembly meeting. And it's an opportunity to sell Nigeria as an entity to the world, for people to see the possibilities in our nation, our great Nigeria. It's an opportunity on the global stage for the president to represent us as the leader of the nation. But we also know that the president will be doing some other meetings on the sideline, and those are the places where we can get some benefits directly into the country. So what can you tell us in specific, those sidelines conversations, which of them are probably going to be commerce, trade, security related?
Yes, definitely there are going to be side meetings. There will be one on power, and the Minister of State for Power is here with us. There will be one on the environment. Minister of State for Environment is here. There will be one on SDGs. The SSA to the President on SDGs is here. The one on security, the National Security Advisor is here. So there are going to be many side meetings scheduled, which have already been scheduled. And the President will be at some physically, at some others, he will be represented. And there's a lot on the table for Nigeria at those meetings.
If there's one thing that any Nigerian leader will be, should be worried about, is the state of security in the country. And we do hope that when some people are saying, even the National Assembly are asking that we need to seek help from those who are the so-called bigger nations on how we can tackle those who have experienced a similar security situation in their history, on how we can tackle some of those problems. So the question would be, banditry is a major problem. Bedeviling the northwestern region of the country and the north central region of the country. Kidnapping is one of those issues. Will the president specifically be speaking and seeking solutions from those who care about the nation?
He has always sought those solutions. It will not just be at this outing. There is no international outing that the president makes that the issue of security in Nigeria does not come up. Recently, he was in London, it came up. He was in France in June, it came up. He has some other trips ahead. Security will come up. Security is always an issue because the president keeps saying that without security, there can be no development. He keeps saying that you cannot effectively manage a nation that you have not secured. So security is #1 priority to him. So at opportunities like this, he usually uses it to talk with those who can help Nigeria in the areas of security. But that is not something you will canvass in the general debate. You will speak about it, you will tell the rest of the world what is happening vis-a-vis security in your country, but it is at the bilateral meetings that you come up with the nitty-gritty, and then you discuss areas in which your country can be helped.
The president recently wrote an article about his fears in the aftermath of what is happening, the takeover by the Taliban in Afghanistan, and what the implications of that for the rest of the world. He voiced his frustrations about how things are going, and perhaps the way the West and some of the bigger countries are handling it, and perhaps what he thinks for the future, and also the position of Nigeria. It's not the first time the federal government will say there needs to be an exposure or to name and shame those who are backing or funding terror in Nigeria. The United Arab Emirates recently also came out, not the first time, but the second time that the federal cabinet in that country will come out to name names. 6 Nigerians were indicted in those funding terror globally. Will this kind of conversation also come up in terms of, because the issue of reparations, the issue of human rights, the issue of terror across the globe is one of the issues that will be raised at that meeting. Give us specifics in this regard.
Yeah, thank you. Naming and shaming will not be the motive. Rather, bringing malefactors to justice will be it. Nigeria is not interested in naming and shaming anybody. Rather, it wants to bring them to justice. You will see that the United Arab Emirates has given some names, and the Attorney General of the Federation has responded to that matter, saying that in due course, all these people will have their dates in court. Rest assured that these people will be dragged before justice, and justice will have its way.
Can you confirm to us if there is any kind of investigation in this respect?
Oh yes, you don't take people before the courts without investigation having happened. I think even the EFCC chairman, Power, spoke about it recently. Investigations are going on at different levels. It will be at the level of the EFCC, it will be at the level of the National Intelligence Agency. All different security agencies will be working on it so that when those people eventually appear in court, that there will be what the lawyers call a prima facie case against them. You don't first call people before the courts and start looking for evidence against them later. No, the cases will be tied up before they appear in court.
I know there are these other bilateral and multilateral meetings on the sidelines. Nigeria is also seeking ways to fix some of the deficit in the budget and also find some more monies. Would there be opportunities to seek borrowings from any nation of the world at that in New York by the president?
And I know the mischief embedded in that question. You don't go to the UN to seek borrowings. And
so I said on the sideline. I'm not saying the president is going there and on the floor of the United General Assembly to seek for money. But as I said, at the sideline.
Any borrowing that Nigeria does cannot be actuated until it goes to the National Assembly. And when it goes to the National Assembly, the president will write, and the National Assembly will read that letter openly.
But Mr. Adesina, you're speaking to a political journalist. I know all of this. The question I'm asking is that you are seeking for this kind of fundings first. When it's confirmed, that's when you go to the National Assembly. So the question is he hoping to have conversations around getting funds or borrowings from any nation of the world at the sideline of that meeting? That's what I'm asking.
And I have told you that I know the mischief embedded in that question. And that the mischief is, Nigeria is borrowing too much. He has gone borrowing again. And that is not the issue. That is not the essence of the meetings. It's a multilateral meeting. And if he now meets with presidents in bilateral meetings, whatever comes up there will not be done through the back door. First, that bilateral meeting will be reported. And two, when action is taken on whatever they discuss, we will know through the National Assembly. That's what I'm saying.
So, well, we do hope that, some will say, that whatever goes on in the darkness will come to the light. We know that sometimes all of these conversations eventually come into in the public. Because what we could read is the mischief. Why not read what I've asked in the plain language I've asked it? And so, in any case, whatever the president is seeking I guess, is going to be for the good of the Nigerian people and the nation.
In the interest of the country.
Okay, so either mischief or not, the question is that whether or not we'll be seeking for more fund for what we are experiencing in the nation. But has the president heard that people were complaining, or some people have the opinion that we are borrowing too much?
Oh, yes. The president does not live in space. He lives among the people. Many times at the Federal Executive meeting, Executive Council meeting, when issues of borrowing comes up, he talks about it. He says, yes, he knows that people say we are borrowing too much, but we are not borrowing to put in our pockets. We are borrowing for development. And that is the difference between this administration and perhaps others before it, who borrowed to steal, who borrowed to pocket, who borrowed to waste. This administration will borrow and use it for development. And you can see evidence of those borrowings and the salutary impact it has had on our national life, particularly this infrastructure.
What about the notion that we're borrowing partly for consumption? And former President Olusegun Obasanjo said it is wasteful to borrow for consumption.
I read what President Obasanjo said. And unless you want to give it that slant, he said clearly, when you borrow for development, there is nothing wrong in it. That is the purport of what the former president said. For anybody that wants to be mischievous or wants to be negative-minded will take it from a negative slant. But the essence of what the former president said was that there was nothing wrong in borrowing as long as it's for development. And one thing about this Buhari administration is that it borrows for development. And many times the Minister of Finance has come out to say that the extent of borrowing to Nigeria's GDP is tolerable because the GDP can accommodate the borrowing. Many times the Finance Minister has said it. If it begins to go beyond what the GDP can support, there will be a red flag and there will be caution. But for now, the position is that yes, it may be on the high side, but the GDP of the country can still accommodate it.
So the question is that, is Mr. Adesina telling Nigerians tonight that not a kobo of what is being borrowed by the federal government goes into recurrent?
That question will be for the finance minister.
No, but that's the question. So if someone says that, look, if you're borrowing for consumption, it's wasteful. So the question is all the borrowings going into capital? The question is any part of that money going for recurrent expenditure?
Before you borrow, it must come to the Federal Executive Council meeting. It must be thoroughly discussed. If anything comes and is for consumption, I'm sure it will not sail through. Not at that meeting. It will not. Capital is what those borrowings are likely used for.
What if there is a part of it that goes into recurrent, Mr. Adesina?
Well, what matters is that...
You're on national television tonight, Mr. Adesina. So I'm asking...
Largely, those borrowings are for capital. Those borrowings are for capital, largely. But the final details of it can come from the Minister for Finance. I know that if you want to borrow for consumption, if you want to borrow for expenditure, it will not likely sail through with Mr. President.
because you are a journalist of long years of practice, I won't push further because you know the implications of what I'm asking. Whether or not,
Yes.
and I don't want to drag you too far in that respect, but just know that Nigerians are monitoring what is being spent, and the figures are there.
I stand by what I've said, but the Minister for Finance, Budget and National Planning is the one that can give you the finer details. That's what I've said. But largely, those borrowings are for capital.
I know you have a meeting afterwards, but
yes.
What is the response of Nigerians in New York and Nigerians there? How did they receive the president when he landed? Any reaction?
Wonderful, wonderful. You should have seen something by Nigeria House today. You know, the Nigeria House is just a stone's throw from the UN headquarters. There was a crowd of Nigerians there today who were on a solidarity march for the president. I'm sure in a matter of minutes, you will get to see the pictures. There was a solidarity march for the president, which tells you that a lot of people know what is happening in Nigeria, people who are based there, and who know that the president is serving the country positively.
Are you aware of a possible protest planned on the day the president is to give his speech?
That will be in consonance with democracy. If people marched in support of the president today, if some other people are otherwise minded, democracy allows it.
But how is the president handling some of these issues? For some people who say they are aggrieved, they're going to United Nations. Some people who are aggrieved, they're going there outside of the country, going to... How is the president handling these, the multiplicity of opinions from the country for those who feel left out of the equation or those who are aggrieved about what is happening in the country now that he's in New York? Is that kind of sensitivity, has it arisen in those conversations that you've had with him?
That will always happen in any country of the world. Any country of the world. When the president visited the United Kingdom a couple of years back, and we went to 10 Downing Street, I think Theresa May was the prime minister then, you needed to see the number of protests that were happening at 10 Downing Street. Different groups carrying placards, different groups carrying placards, canvassing different kinds of political situations and developments. That was at 10 Downing Street, the seat of the British government. So it happens any part of the world. Democracy allows it.
So President Buhari is not moved by those kind of protests and agitations?
I would not say moved would not be the right word. Not distracted. Not distracted by those protests. He continues to do what he's doing. And a president that wants to make an impact as president of Nigeria, that is enough to distract you, that at the end of the day, no matter how long you spend, 4 years, 8 years, you'll get nothing done if you allow distraction to set.
I wish you, your colleagues and members of cabinet, a fruitful stay in New York. Extend our greetings to the president also. And maybe at some point we can get to talk to him, and at least after the meeting. Thank you so much, Mr. Additioner. It's a pleasure having you tonight.
Well, I can tell you that some things are cooking, and I'm sure channels will not be left.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's good to see you, Mr. Additioner. Let me allow you to go for your meeting that you have afterwards. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take a break now. And when we return, the governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule, will be speaking exclusively with us tonight. He'll be speaking about the strategies of fending off infiltrators, what is happening in Nasarawa State, and of course, the strategy against these bandits and terrorists coming from up north. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. Welcome back. Let's get started again with our next conversation. And we're taking on the governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule. But this is the area of conversation. As part of the efforts towards addressing the insecurity in Nasarawa State, the governor has convened a second security meeting in 1 week. This happened last week. The meeting, which is a continuation of its meeting on Monday, was prompted by the infiltration of fleeing bandits from some parts of the country, which the governor reviewed have already been cited in some local government areas of the state. The head of the vigilante group Hunters Association, the leaders of Fulani groups and traditional rulers were part of that meeting. So what are the issues tonight that we're taking up with the governor? The threat of the infiltration, where are they coming from? What has he seen? The security strategy and the containment tactics, because those who are living in Abuja are already hearing this, and what is being done to contain all of this. The bottom line in this conversation is how to keep the people of Nasarawa State and the border state safe from these so-called infiltrators. Joining me now is the executive governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule. He joins us from the capital of Nasarawa State, Lafia. Thank you, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure having you. Let's get started. First and foremost, how bad is the story of the infiltrators? What have you seen? What can you tell us?
Thank you very much, Sheun. But before I say anything about the infiltrators, I think the first thing is to commend the governors of those states, you know, Katsina, Kaduna, Zamfara, Niger, and the other states that have been working very hard to get rid of these bandits. I think they are doing a wonderful job, and I think we need to commend them, and we need to commend our security agencies. Now, because of the pressure that some of those bandits are having, of course, they are moving all over the north central and some parts of the northwestern states. And Nasarawa State, because of the experience that we have had in the past, in 2016, is one of the reasons why I think we are working much harder to ensure that what happened in 2016 does not happen again. We did notice some of them. We were able to see a lot of them that came on motorcycles and moved to certain locations. That alerted us. In one of the trips, we saw about 32 of them. In fact, the villagers counted that came into some parts of the state just in one night. Then we saw some going to some other locations, different numbers and the rest of that. So that's what necessitated the meetings we had. So from what you reported, you know, we had 2 security meetings back to back, you know, in order to ensure that they say once bitten, twice shy. So we don't want to have a repeat of what we experienced in 2016 when the Darul Salam were dislodged from Niger State and they came and settled into the local government area at the border with Kogi State.
So what do they look like? Are these the bandits or are these the terrorists from, because, well, they may not have described or tagged these bandits terrorists, but the activities say much more about what they do anyways. And you look at what you have seen, do they look more like the Boko Haram members or the bandits from the information that you have?
Sheun, they look like criminals. I think that's the most important thing. These people coming in, not having anything to do, you know, they look like Fulanis, yet they don't have cows. They are not moving any cows. Instead, 2 or 3 of them on a motorcycle at a time, you know, are going around. And they had already carried out a couple of kidnappings right here in the same local government we are talking about. In fact, they kidnapped some people. Some of them escaped. And then some of them were able to use our own vigilante also to go after them before the military also set up on them. So those are the kind of people we see, you know, so they are indeed criminals. So I think that's more important, whether they look like Boko Haram or they look like bandits. As far as we are concerned, we just tag them as criminals and we deal with them as such.
It's interesting that Nasarawa State is bordered by 5 or 6 states, Plateau, Taraba, Kogi, Kaduna, and Abuja. And when the story came out about this infiltration, it sent panic to people living in the FCT in Abuja, thinking that, I mean, a lot of people live in Nasarawa State and work in Abuja. Are you worried about this alarm and the kind of jitters that he has sent to those living, not saying that those who are living in every other places that is bordering Nasarawa State shouldn't be worried, but you know what it means. Years ago, when Boko Haram were staging attacks on the nation's capital, and you know what it means when these attacks are very prominent in the nation's capital. It touched the very nerve of our nationhood. So that's the reason why I wanted to ask the question. If you've heard about those kind of alert and alarm and the effect that is having on the nation's capital, the jitters.
No, definitely we are concerned. We are not, but we are not panicking, you know, and we are used to this. We've been receiving these kinds of people, and then we handle them, even when they were not being dislodged. From time to time, they actually relocate. They move from one location to another. And as you rightly mentioned, Abuja had always been an attraction because, you know, kidnappers are looking for people they can kidnap and make money. And they strongly believe that there are such people around Abuja. So for that reason, Abuja has always been an attraction for them. But we have never panicked, you know. Instead, you know, we get concerned, and anytime there is an activity like that, it's not the first time Kaduna State, like you rightly mentioned, Kaduna State at the border. You know, Kaduna State is one of the borders we have at Gitata, Karu, and Nasarawa State has the longest border with the Federal Capital Territory, and Federal Capital also has the longest border with Nasarawa than any other state. You know, so that's why you mentioned a lot of these people who work actually in Abuja live in Nasarawa State and they commute every day. You know, so, but we are doing it not only to protect the federal capital, we are doing it to protect our people. You know, so we are concerned also about our people because they are not kidnapping only in those parts of the, in Karu alone. They are actually carrying out sometimes in places like Akwanga, like Wamba, you know, that are far away from the federal capital, sometimes in away local government areas. So when we actually go after these people, we are going after them for our people first, you know, because that's our biggest concern right now, the safety of our own people.
So we look at the effect of this and what you are doing. First and foremost, the containment, because you've seen the infiltration. So it's not a situation. First and foremost, it has to be multi-throng, multifaceted in what the approach that you are using, because you need to stop them and also contain. How far can you tell us? What can you tell us about these strategies?
I think the first thing is that the luck we had, we are forever grateful to the security agencies and especially to Mr. President for setting up some of the security outlets that we have had. You know, a lot of the places where these people moved to are places where, you know, maybe some people used to live and they vacated, especially in total local government where a community known as the Pasa people actually left. So the villages they left, these people find very difficult to actually move in there. So we're very lucky now we have what we call the military super camps in some of those areas. We have a squadron now, a mobile police squadron in total local government. We have another special forces actually called the Wild Stroke. They also have a base in Ogia. Now, in other locations that we are afraid of, you know, at the border with Benue and the highway also coming out from the east, coming into Nasarawa, through Nasarawa State, going to the federal capital, you know, where we have the Oweto Bridge, which is the longest bridge that is there. So as a result of that, also, we do have some locations, you know, that have actually set up. You know, so another military super camp, another presence of the Air Force that we have. And then in Gitata, we have similar things. So what we are doing is to ensure that all those security settlements that we are setting up, you know, are locations where these people can possibly move out, you know, to ensure that we don't give them any freedom to go and relocate and settle in those kind of places. So I think that's the number one thing. We are also encouraging, because the expanded security meeting we had yesterday, we had the meeting including also our vigilante, who are doing a fantastic job in Nasarawa State. Because sometimes they go after these people because they understand the areas even more than some of the security agencies we have. You know, so we had the meeting with them, and then we are also empowering them in order for them to be able to move in and protect themselves, you know, and protect their own communities. You know, so then, you know, Nasarawa State also adopted this community policing. So we do have the community police also that are coming. So you see, we have a lot of other things, but some of the intrigues, the strategy they are doing, and everything they are taking to ensure they protect us and the rest of that, I can't disclose on national TV. But other than that, I think we are taking a lot of steps. We are trying to take precautionary measures, so that we don't allow these people to come and settle in Masalawas.
So, two quick things in this area. First and foremost, you said they are Fulanis, they are on motorbikes, and they don't have cows. So, are your people able to identify them easily in Nasarawa State? Are they that very conspicuous that they could easily be identified? Because some of the problems in some of the states is that it's even very difficult to identify or distinguish some of these guys from the natives and the locals in some of these states. And perhaps is your government looking in the direction of the anti-open grazing law?
I know we will get into anti-grazing law, but I think the bottom line is that one of the reasons why it's easier to identify them as Fulanis is because when they move, they don't move quiet, they speak, and so when they speak full day. So they actually speak the Fulani language. That's why generally they say they are Fulani. But I can tell you not every one of them is Fulani, because amongst them, sometimes they are able actually to recruit some other people who are not Fulani. And the last time we were able to arrest them, and then we have a lot of them right now who are arrested by our CID, and then our civil defense and the rest of that. So when you go and check, you will see that they are locals, so, but they are recruited by those ones running away. So majority of those that have actually run away and actually came are people who speak Fulani. That's the reason why the communities will call and tell us that they are Fulani. But when we arrest them, we come to discover that not every one of them is Fulani. So I think let me make it very clear from that angle. And then secondly, it's difficult to identify them. When you say to identify them, you identify people that you have seen over a period of time. These people just come, most of them looking like actually they are even foreigners from other foreign countries from the northern part of the country. So they don't look like people actually who speak or who act, and their cultures and then their behaviors, their attitudes, their arrogance also are a little bit different, from our traditional Fulanis. Even these Fulanis that we mentioned, Fulani, there are at least 10, 15 different types of Fulanis, because the Fulanis that you see in Niger Republic, in Chad, and in Cameroon are a little bit sometimes different from the Fulanis that we see here. That when we categorize them, we just say Fulanis. And I think that's just what is happening.
What about the anti-open grazing law? Because, these are some of the measures taken by some of your colleagues in some other states to stop the infiltration.
Is it working? I think the question is whether it's working or not. We have spoken about this over and over and over. And I will tell you, we have done something different. We're not just going with the crowd about anti-grazing law. If you sign anti-grazing law and the anti-grazing law is not working, so is it worth it? One thing all the northern governors have decided, and we have taken the decision, we say that the current method of this open grazing is old-fashioned, is outdated, it cannot be sustained. We all agreed. But the question of now going back to have anti-grazing law, we say we can also do that, but the best way to do that is if you have options for the people. It's very easy for Nasarawa State to say, in 1 week, we go to the assembly, we go ahead and have anti-grazing law, and then we do that. So what happened to the Fulanis that are moving around back and forth? What do you do with them? You kick them out? Let's say we are successful in kicking them out. They move to the next state. The next state also anti-grazing law. They go to the next one. So what happens? You see, so what we said we are going to do, which is what we are doing in Nasarawa State, we say we don't like the current anti-grazing policy, is not working. In fact, if the Fulanis understand why, they will know it's not working. Okay? A cow that they can get about 4 or 5 or 6 liters of milk, they are getting only 2 liters because the cow has been moving all day, all night. The cow is even tired. Okay? So we tell them it's not working. So the best way now is give them something that is working. We are talking to a Fulani man that all his life he is used to free food for the cow, free water for the cow, free movement around for the cow and the rest of that. Tomorrow you tell him they cannot move free. So he will ask you, so what do you have for me? What's the option? So the option is the direction we are taking. We say, okay, before we have the law, let us provide an option for you. And what is that option? We say we have adopted, and that's why Nasarawa State is the first state, okay, to adopt the NLTP, the National Livestock Transformation Plan, as is the case. And they are working on in the area right now. So we have taken one of the grazing reserves, that has already been there. We have identified it. We are working with the Netherlands government. We are working with the federal government of Nigeria through the Ministry of Agriculture, and then we are setting it up. We are going to plant grass there. We are going to build school there for the Fulanis. We are going to build healthcare for the Fulanis. We are going to settle them in these areas. There is now plenty of grass for you to have, plenty of water for you to have, plenty of this. Now settle here. Don't move out of this location. Now we have at least 6 or 7 locations, grazing reserves in Nasarawa State. Once we are able to do all the funding and we establish that, then we can say we have enough places to settle you, the Fulanis, in those locations. Now we don't want to see any one of you on the road. So that's the step we are taking. But instead of just saying anti-grazing law, okay, anti-grazing law, then what? So with all the due respect to my brother across the border in Benue, they have the anti-grazing law, okay? Is it working? Sometimes. Because majority of the time now, he has thousands of people in the name of livestock guards that are fighting the people at the border, to say that you can't enter. They find them in there. Oh, okay, we tax you for entry. They do that here. So this is what is happening. So it's a constant struggle, back and forth, back and forth. It's easier for a place like Lagos to have, because Lagos, where is the land even for them to graze? Okay? Is it going to Ikoyi or Bogada or Ikorodu or Ikeja to go and do that? So, but in places like ours, where you will have one area that is the size of Lagos, it's very difficult to control it. So this is the fact. This is the truth where we are taking.
So let me take you quickly to areas of politics. You received some stakeholders in your party who are conversing for the VP to become the candidate of your party. And I've heard some other members of your party to say, look, the best bet for your party is to put an Oshibajo forward. What's your take on that?
I have not heard that. Who is the person saying that?
So some members of your party already, I hear stuff, Governor, and they're saying
I know you do.
That your best bet in your party is to put a Professor Oshibajo, the VP, forward as a candidate of your party in 2023. What's your view on that?
Professor Oshibajo is a loyal vice president. He's a man of God. He's a gentleman. He's a professional lawyer. He's a party man. And he is more than qualified, actually, to be the president of this country. There is no ambiguity. There is no doubt about it. Now, the time for it is coming. And that's what I told the gentlemen when they visited me today. They say, you are visiting me about a person I love and I admire and I respect. That is Oshibajo. But the man has not started selling himself yet. Is he aware you are selling him? Because those are the kinds of things I ask them. Sometimes people take their time, to go extra mile to do this. I'm sure you saw me at the last birthday of Oshibajo, so you know how much I respect our vice president. Another thing I respect about him, which a lot of people may not know, is his patience. Each time we are having NEC meetings, you will hear all kinds of arguments. The man will be patient enough to control the meetings, and he's able to gather and get people's support and do that. So if I sit with you, I can keep talking the good things about Oshibajo, but it's different. It's different from the way the people are going about selling him. The man is already selling himself because of who he is. So, and that's the way I look at it. And he's doing the right thing by waiting, making proper consultations with the right people who should say, yes, I agree, you should do that. Making the right contact with the party that will say, we believe we should zone this to that. So he's not running earlier than himself. Because how about if anybody will be telling you the best person is to put Oshibajo, the best person, and then they come and say, okay, no, we are zoning it to the southeast, or we are zoning it to the northeast. or even better to the North Central.
But Governor, yeah, let me put another perspective to this. So Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed was in the news yesterday saying the part of what the soundbite was that look, the North has a number. You cannot bamboozle the North with saying that you want, based on what the Southern governors have said, that the presidency of Nigeria must be zoned to the southern region of the country in 2023. And Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed said, look, you cannot tell us that because we have the number. We will dictate what happens. What's your stance on what's your view on that?
The guy is talking like a Democrat. Anybody who will tell you, I must have this, is not a Democrat. Because Democrats don't say, I must have this. Otherwise, or else what? You know, I mean, things don't work like that. I think the presidency of Nigeria is for people to lobby. You can lobby it, you can campaign for it, you can do that. A lot of Southerners have been Nigeria's president. Nigeria didn't come to an end. The northern part of the country didn't actually come to an end. So there is nothing to fear about a Southern president. We had Obasanjo as a Southern president who was, by the way, brought up there by the northern people, not even by his Southern. The Southern people at the time wanted somebody different. It was the northern people that rallied and brought President Olusegun Obasanjo. The same thing actually with the gentleman called Jonathan. He's from the South. He was a president. We didn't bring the South to an end. But where somebody will say, we must have this. Okay, if you don't have it, what? What next?
So you don't really like what your colleague governors said in that southern meeting. The outcome of the meeting when they said it has to be zoned to the southern region.
No, I'm saying that people, you know, it's a free world, Shewin. People can say whatever they want to say, you know, but if it carries water or it has any weight, I think that's the essence. Does it have any weight in what they are saying? Because if it has weight, you can't be fighting it. You can't be saying it must. I think the word that is not there, that will not, so people like us, you can't choke it down our throat, is where you say, we must. You must what? You know, it doesn't work that way. There are a lot of Southerners, wonderful people, we just spoke about one now, who have the capacity to take this country, work it well, fix the economy, do a very good job, and move this country from where you are to the next direction. But even those kind of people, you don't say they must, you know. If they don't, what next? You know, VAT, resource control, this and that, is that it? You know, because you can't tell anybody you must. That's just the word that I'm concerned about when you say they must. You know, it must come to the South. Okay, how about if it doesn't? Because it's possible that it may not.
But just 30 seconds, Governor. Where do you think it must go, for the sake of fairness? No,
I think you and I, Sean, every time we speak, and you know I love speaking with you because you do your research very, very well. Before you come to talk to me, you know that I'm going to corner you with fact. Yeah. So the bottom line is, Sean, is that I've spoken with you over and over and over, and I say I'm a man of fairness. I strongly believe in fairness. I have absolutely zero problem if our party zones this position to the South. I will support it with all my effort. I will have absolutely no problem with it. In fact, I will be at the forefront, you know, of supporting it to make sure it happens. You know, but what I say I don't like is that when people are even speaking this way, then somebody will jump up as if he controls you, as if he does that and say, you must. Then you say, no, I'm not. Then what? You see, that's the part. So there is no choice.
It's a very interesting conversation, you know, and because it keeps coming up and up. I mean, we can't stop talking about it. And wherever it goes in 2023, we'll still talk about it in the next election cycle. But it's always a pleasure. I always look forward to talking to you. Just a fascinating man that you are. Thank you so much, Governor Abdullahi Sule, for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.